Greetings. This is Arvat McLean of Speak, the Universe Listens. As a very young person, I always felt that I carried the weight of the world on my shoulders, having to make grown-up decisions in order to survive a life marked with physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. While my face was smiling on the outside, on the inside, I always secretly cried and felt miserable. However, over the years, I learned some gems that helped to turn my life around. I now get to live the life of my dreams, filled with love, travel, and wonderment. And I am absolutely passionate about sharing what I have learned with you. If you want to live your best life, tune in each week as I, along with some amazing guests, share these life-changing gems with you. Inspired to be more, do more, have more. Greetings and welcome to today's episode of Speak, the Universe Listens. And today's topic is the best love, self-love. And I have joining me Stephen.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm good.
Good,
How
good.
are you?
I'm great as well.
Awesome.
Good to have you back.
Thank you.
Yes. And self-love.
Yes, self-love.
Yeah, why is that important?
Oh, man, self-love. Self-love is so important on so many levels. I don't think that a lot of us really are aware of it, but if you don't love yourself, how can anybody else love you? So when you think about it, I think a lot of the times we want society, or we want friends or associates, people that we deal with on a regular basis, to sit back and we just want to be accepted. But the problem is we're looking for love in all the wrong places. So the first step, in order, if you want to receive love in a way that however you view love, if you want that particular love, then first you got to know how to love yourself. And loving yourself, if you can't love yourself, nobody else can really give you what you're looking for as far as love. The first step, though, I would say, is you got to understand, you got to go in deep. You really do. You got to dive deep and sit back and just think to yourself, like, okay, what is it that I like about myself? Because we always can sit back and beat ourselves up and tell ourselves, about what we don't like about ourselves, instead of saying, well, you know what, I like the way I conversate, or I like the way that I do this right here, and so forth and so forth. So getting to that point as to where we can really recognize that we're our number one fan, and we have to be our number one fan. In order, the way we view ourselves, that's how the world views us. So if you view yourself in the sense of, you're mediocre, or you think that I'm okay, well, everybody else is going to sit back and do the same. So
I'm gonna break in right here because
Right.
a lot of times people say, if you don't love yourself, then no one else can love you. And of course, that's not true. But
Right.
the part that you put on there was they can't love you in a way that you can receive it.
Right.
So that's the part that's true. But definitely, people love you no matter how you feel about yourself. But you're not receiving it. You're not able
Right.
to receive it and embrace it. And I think you also said that I forgot exactly what you said, but what it put me in the mind of is a lot of times we want people to treat us a certain way, but we're not being treated that way.
Right.
And that's because of how we're viewing ourselves. And so we're not getting what it is we need or want because we're not actually giving it to ourselves.
Exactly. And I think a lot of us we know what we want. That's the thing. We know what we want, and we know how we view ourselves, but for some reason we always sit back and we continuously beat ourselves up. And if we was to sit back and how we can fix it, I was reading an article, I think it was by Dr. Wayne, and you're familiar with his work too. And he was talking about majority of our situations in life. Some of them date back to childhood. And so when we look at that, we had to recognize what happened in our childhood that made us the way that we are now. And so when we really go deep and we think about that, it's like a cycle, and it just keeps on playing and playing and playing. So when it comes to love, we have to think about, well, dang, what happened then that causes me to think or feel the way that I do now? So it's something along throughout your journey of life, somewhere down the road, that you that sort of sit back and made you feel the way that you do, and made you think about yourself in the way that you do think about yourself. So in order to love yourself, you have to really go deep, and you have to address those issues. You have to sit back and really face forward and say, well, hey, all right, what is it that's really bothering me? What is it that I see in myself that I don't like? Why I don't like it? You know, ask those personal questions and really go deep. And when you do, you'll be surprised. You know, you'll be like, wow. You know, start asking these questions for yourself, because you already got the answer. So I really think that it's just extremely important that we really go deep within ourselves and understand what it's like to love us. The same way as if a parent, the way a parent loves a child, you know, that's how you're supposed to love yourself.
And I think the whole concept of self-love, it's such an epidemic in terms of the number of people who don't love themselves. And so because it's so widespread, you have to think this is almost a human condition and not just a individual point. So it's so many people in the world that are dealing with lack of love for self. And I was actually, well, I don't even know, I've heard so many different speakers talk about it, but basically the whole concept of from the ages of 0 to 7, you just accept whatever is being poured into you.
Correct.
And so a lot of times our parents, who don't realize how impressionable we are at that age, that we're just accepting it as you give it to me. If your parents are saying, you bad, or, you know, get out of here, you don't need to be doing that, or get out of my face, or, you know, you need to clean your room, you're so filthy. So they're saying all these things because our parents want us to be better, right? Yeah. But we're taking that in and interpreting it like, I'm bad, there's something wrong with me, I'm not good enough, I'm not enough. And we interpret that as a young person, and we accept that as our reality, that something's wrong with us, or we're not enough of something. And so as adult people, we've carried that on, like this thinking that something's wrong. And then, as you say, it's a cycle, because then we'll do the same thing to our kids.
It's a continuous cycle.
And, you know, we only with the best of intentions, you know, we just want our kids to, you know, grow up and be responsible, but then we're saying we're using the same kind of language that is almost, I'm not going to say it's not going to kill you, but it almost kills the spirit in some ways, because we're coming out of it feeling like we're not good enough. We're coming out of it with our wings clipped. We're coming out of it not realizing our potentials. And so, as you say, at a certain point in time, you need to start deep diving and figuring out, first of all, realizing that it's more to me than all these limits that I have now placed on myself as a result of the messages that have been received throughout my life.
Right. And then with loving yourself, it's like we so often sit back and we compare. We use this thing of comparing ourselves to the next individual, you know. And I really, I was talking to someone, I think it was a co-worker of mine that I work with, and we was on this subject, and I was explaining to him that in life you're going to have people that make more money than you. You're going to have people that maybe more smarter than you. You're going to have individuals maybe more athletic than you, you know, more talented than you in certain aspects of life. But regardless of that, the true power is within yourself, because you're different. So when you realize that, you know, you're different, that's how you know, that's your true power. You recognize that. And so you shouldn't want to be like the next person. You know, you're unique. Everybody is unique. And I think what it is how the world is, how society is. Everybody's just been conditioned to sit back and just go on this one route, this one way of thinking. You see what I'm saying? And follow the masses. And so we out here, we're following the masses, but yet we can't sit back and express ourselves the way that we want to express ourselves, because we feel like we have to hide underneath this shell of who we really are. You see what I'm saying? Instead of really expressing ourselves. And so I think that's one thing of self-love that a lot of us need to understand. Like, be yourself. You know, don't try to be like the next person. You know, you're unique, and your flaws as well. Your flaws, they are unique. You know, so accept it. And when you accept it and you embrace it, you take like a whole weight off your shoulders. You know?
Yeah, I remember as a kid, because I was clear as a kid that I hated myself. It was no gray area. It wasn't like, do I need to love myself? There was nothing. I was clear. I hated myself, hated everything about me. Couldn't understand why anybody could love me. I didn't think that anybody did anyway, because I was just unlovable in my mind.
I got you.
And I actually remember people will always say, you know, the key to success is to love yourself.
Right.
And everyone would just say, you have to love yourself, you have to love yourself, you have to love yourself. I'm like, okay, but how?
How?
Nobody's giving me the prescription. Like, I don't know how to do it. I would love to do it, but how do you love yourself when you hate yourself, you know? And for me, it wasn't about things. It wasn't like I didn't love things about me. It wasn't, I didn't think I could do things. I wasn't capable. It didn't have anything to do with that, because I typically excelled at what I did. That didn't have anything to do with how I felt about myself, you know. And so the messages that I had received from the world, that I perceived that I received from the world, was that you're unlovable, you don't deserve anything. And so, but I remember specifically what shifted for me. And the specific shift, and I've shared this story a couple of times before on the podcast, but the specific change was seeing a lady on Oprah Winfrey show. And she was a young lady, maybe like somewhere between, I'm going to say 16 and 22. I can't remember now, but she was a very young lady. And she had experienced being caught by some men and tied to the back of their truck and dragged through the street. And as a result of that, her face has basically been dragged off. She was, she was just this beautiful, physically beautiful lady. The after, physically, not so much. She was very disfigured and disformed. However, as I watched her, she was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen, because of her spirit, her aura, and she was just loving towards the men that had done that to her. Just the way she saw the world was just like, it was just so beautiful. And I was just like, how in the world?
How can you love it?
How? Just this pure stream of peace and love that poured from her. And I couldn't understand, like, how is she okay? And I was like, if I wasn't cute, I don't think I could be okay. And I was like, if I wasn't smart, I don't think I could be okay. And if I wasn't nice, I don't think I could be okay. And so every day I would ask myself those questions again. If I wasn't cute, could I be okay? Nope. If I wasn't smart, could I be okay? Nope. If I wasn't kind, could I be okay? Nope. Because I saw those things as who I was.
Yeah, you allowed that to identify you.
Yes.
I got
yes.
you.
And so I eventually was able to say, okay, if I wasn't cute, I'd be okay. And if I wasn't smart, I'd be okay. But it was really hard for me to say if I wasn't kind. And, you know, because anything can happen at any time. And I could, you know, something can happen and cause your whole way of viewing the world, or it could be a brain injury. Anything could cause you to become an unkind person. And I'm like, okay, if I have to live my life as an unkind person, could I be okay? And I just couldn't get that one. I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it. And then at some point, I finally realized that I am bigger than anything that describes me. It is more to me than any label. It's more to me than anything I can do. It's more to me than that. And I think that's when I didn't consciously realize it, but that's when I realized really that I'm connected to all that is, that I'm so much bigger than who I'm showing up as. And when I made that realization, that was the first day, and I called my mom.
Right.
I was living in Ohio at that time. My mom was in Richmond, Virginia. And so I called my mom, and I was like, if I should die today, I want you to know that I died as a truly happy person, or whatever. And she said, what's going on? Are you okay? And I'm like, yes, I'm calling to tell you that for the first time, I'm really okay.
Good. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so to me, self-love is a product of realizing that you're more than this physical body that shows up.
Right.
We're so much more than that.
10 times more. Right.
10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times.
Right,
We're so
right.
much more. And being connected to that stream of being more than that, when you realize, you're a part of all that is, how can you hate that?
Okay. It's impossible. It's impossible. And I think with loving yourself, and I love the way that you described that. That was awesome. Loving yourself. A lot of us we have to rewire our thinking of what we've been taught about ourselves, or what we tell ourselves, in other words, because I think that's a big issue with some of us, that we just can't sit back and detach ourselves from that mindset of thinking, because what you just said, situations may pop up, and when they pop up, it may cause you to sit back and make your mind go left, and saying to yourself, well, I don't think I'm able to do this, or I don't think I'm pretty enough, or I don't think I'm,
Right.
So when you start to think like that, you believe that. And with self-love, you have to sit back and know deep down in yourself that you are beautiful, you are unique, you are one of a kind. No matter what anybody else says, you are a lovable being. Be that person of love, and express that love. When you walk in every day in a aura of love, it's contagious.
Yeah.
It's very contagious. It spreads like wildfire to others. And not saying that I'm a saint, or that doesn't make nobody else a saint as well. But it's just more of when you walk and carry yourself of love and light, man. The people that are not there yet, you're gonna sit back and eventually they're gonna gravitate to you. And when they do gravitate to you, it's an individual's job to sit back and, hey, show them what it's like to love their self. And then boom, you just make it contagious and just keep on spreading that love.
Yes.
So love to see people get to that point in life, because right now I think a lot of people, they will say that they love themselves, but then when you sit back and really sit down and dig deep, it's going to be things that they don't want to, skeletons in the closet that they don't want to answer, things that they don't want to face yet, and when you face the things that you really don't want to face yet, that's in your closet, then you're making those baby steps to loving yourself and just getting to that level in life.
Yeah, and I think it's almost as long as our love for ourselves is contingent on anything that's around us,
Right.
that's not real love. We're not really loving ourselves. So our love for ourselves, once we're able to love the strength, like if I realize that you and me are the same, like,
Right.
And I don't mean we're similar, I mean we're the same. We're both connected to the source of all that is. So when I see you as that, and I see everybody that I meet as that, I can't help but to love them. And if everybody is that, I'm that, I can't help but to love me. and it's not contingent on anything. It's not contingent. I love you automatically,
Right.
not because of anything you've said, done, anything like that. And of course, I might like you differently based on how you show up in the world.
Right.
But my feeling of loving you, it doesn't change no matter
Right.
who you are or how you show up in the world, because I'm realizing that I'm looking at a part of me, I'm looking at a part of God, I'm looking at this flow that
Right.
to me where everything is all right.
It's all right.
Everything
yeah.
is all right.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
right. It's all right. And I just, we really need to get ourselves into that mindset of every day, you're just waking up and just having that gratitude and just knowing that, you know what, I'm a being of light,
Yes.
of love, of charisma. I mean, just you wake up with that joy, because as we seen and as we know, life is so precious that it's never guaranteed. And so when we realize that every day should be a day as to where you shouldn't even wake up with a mood swing, or a frown on your face. You're here. You're able to see another day. So be that person of light and love, and not saying that it's you got to walk around like a saint, but carry yourself in a way as to where you will want people to treat you, and not even just the way you want them to treat you, but how would you like to treat people?
Yeah. And I think in the beginning, when I was like really searching for, first of all, I'll say that whenever you have a question, you put a question out into the universe, you're going to get an answer. And so my question was, how do I learn to love myself? How do I love myself?
Right.
And so in that, I started a lot of the things that you talk about in terms of writing stuff down, deep dive in what things happened in my past that would cause me to feel the way that I feel. So I did that kind of analytical thing. And I think, as I so often say, you just have to take a step. And you might not know where to go. You take that one step, you don't know what's the next step, but something will be revealed to you. And so just in me taking the step of looking for, how do I love myself, the true answer came, but I was taking the other steps. And the steps that I was taking in the beginning were things like realizing, like you say, that I'm unique. Like my past isn't meant to hold me back. My past was meant to propel me. Like these experiences that you think all these bad things happen and you're like ashamed and, makes you feel less than. But if you really flip the script, you're like, oh, those things really is what makes me shine. I wouldn't be X, Y, and Z, and in my case, I realized that, I'm a super listener. I'm super at scoping out an environment, because I used to have to make sure I was okay. I would have to be safe. And so I had to be able to read people to see if you're somebody that's going to hurt me or not hurt me. So I learned that. I learned a huge degree of compassion for people. So these are things I learned as a result of having experienced so many bad things in my life. And so rather than getting focused on, because of those things, my wings were clipped and, I just flipped it and because of those things, man, I'm amazing.
right. I'm amazing.
Yeah.
Right. So I could say even when I was a kid, when I was in like kindergarten, so I used to get bullied as a kid, and I swear I did not like it at all. It was something that every day I get off the bus, and when I get off the bus, I have to face this guy, and it's like, what did I do? Because I was just a quiet, keep to myself type of guy. And every day I go home and I just be thinking, like, what did I do? Like, what is it about me that just makes somebody, because of the person that I am, I'm a giver. I will give somebody the jacket off my back if they need it, And so I really couldn't grasp on to what it was. And so later on down the road in life, and that's what I was talking about as far as backtracking. When you go back, it's something that's in your past that's related to your present, which is causing you to sit back and view things, the way that you view them. So, yeah, the older that I got, I was like, you know what? My mindset changed. It's like I was quiet and shy, but then I got to the point as where I started toughening up. Like I wish somebody would say something to me, or I wish somebody would put their hands up. So yeah, man. And then I realized that no matter what an individual think about me, it's all about what I think about myself. Nobody cannot sit back and define me. The only person that can define me is myself.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, and after I learned that, I was like, you know what, I'm cool. I'm cool. I used to worry about what other people used to think about me, but when I started loving myself correctly, things start falling in order.
Awesome. So thank you so much
Ah,
for
it was a
this
pleasure.
conversation
It
on
was a
self-love. And this is one of those conversations that it hits home so much for me because I just remember
Yeah.
I lived a good chunk of my life hating myself. So,
Right.
and just remembering the feeling, the freedom, the euphoria that
Right.
came with actually understanding how to love myself.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for joining
You're welcome.
me.
You're
All
welcome.
right, guys. Thank you for joining us as well. I hope you found something in this conversation on self-love, and just keep shining your light as bright as you can shine it. Until next time, this is Arvat and Stephen.